In what ways does your media product use, develop, or challenge forms and conventions of real media products? When I created my short film, I decided on a heavily religious theme, as I wanted to convey an important message. In order to create such a product while still appealing to a younger audience demographic, I did research on popular films with heavy religious themes. For example, Seven. I felt by using intertextual references to modern films in the same genre, I could appeal to a younger audience. I also researched popular postmodern films such as Pulp Fiction, where I took influence using scene transitions. Upon research, I discovered that mise-en-scene was very prominent within this genre, and bold scenes with dramatic lighting were very effective in building tension. I then decided to implement this technique in my postmodern short film, in the opening scene where I rely heavily on dramatic lighting and mise-en-scene to create dramatic effect. Upon researching, I found that postmodern films allowed more creativity with limitless possibilities. Most did not conform to the traditional plot structure. I implemented this technique into my film, and by using this convention I conformed to the postmodern genre. I did this as I had the end of my film through the midsection. By having a postmodern structure, I was able to engage a younger audience through postmodern techniques. Critical interpretation is a common theme in postmodern films, most with a serious subject or dialogue that focuses on an issue in modern society. In my film, I tried to implement this idea through religion and showed how indoctrination and misinterpretation can lead to dramatic circumstances. In this way, I did conform to postmodern films. I attempted to create an original product, one that brought something new to the genre rather than conforming to it. However, looking back, I do see how I may have unintentionally paid homage to favourite directors of mine, such as David Fincher, where I used several low-lit establishing shots with minimalistic themes. However, I hope that with my linear narrative and experimental shot types, I successfully brought something new to the genre. Visually, I tried to reflect the heavily religious themes embodied in my film's text. I did this through constructing my protagonist's face with Bible scripture. This allowed the audience to see the correlation between the two, and I believe illustrated Dante's state of psychosis, with his blank, morbid facial expressions. I also deliberately decreased lighting within the film, using Rembrandt-style side lighting and other features in order to reflect the dark tone I attempted to create within the text. I also used similar text within my poster, as I did my film. When creating my review, I decided I wanted the reader to feel like another party had written it, rather than it be a homage to my own work. However, I felt it important to focus on the pressing themes within my film's text, such as extremism within religion. I tried to describe the importance of the text, and in this way I did end up almost glorifying my own work. I believe both my poster and my review are appropriate text for my target audience, and I feel I effectively created work that would appeal to my target audience, using sophisticated text and a poster that is simplistic rather than full of action keys. I was able to connect with the older generation of filmgoers. I also included a Twitter tag on my poster in order to appeal to a younger audience demographic. I used my audience feedback to focus on particular segments of my script in an attempt to improve those that I felt needed work. For example, I was told that the lack of sound at the beginning didn't have enough of an effect, so I made an effort to put a slow piano piece at the beginning to make the experience more engaging for the audience. I also asked my audience questions, focusing on the more experimental aspects of my piece. For example, the ending and the reversal of dialogue from the therapist. I was very conscious that while I enjoyed those features of my film, the bizarre nature of them may not appeal to a wider audience. However, the positive feedback gave me confidence to leave those features in my film, and I am glad I have done so. My feedback was very positive on the mise-en-scene included within my film, which was a relief for me considering how long I had spent trying to make the gothic scenes at the beginning as effective and as dramatic as possible. Most viewing my film had different opinions of the intended reading of the film. This was also an effect I wanted to create. The linear narrative and subjective text was a deliberate attempt of sparking controversy and conversation surrounding a serious subject, and I'm delighted with its effectiveness. I received mixed reviews on my film, and I am grateful for this. I was aware when making it that not all would like it because of its postmodern themes. However, I feel my target audience seemed to be very engaged with the film, and as a result, I would say it was a success. For the research process, I found media magazines online and the Google search engine very useful. The information was easily accessible and definitely aided my understanding of things such as Marxism. I also found it very easy to upload and present my findings on my blog in creative ways thanks to Web 2.0 tools such as WordPress and SlideShare. My favourite tool online was definitely Prezi. It was very intuitive and easy to use, which meant the process wasn't time consuming, unlike other Web 2.0 tools. I also used MindMaple in the pre-production stages of my film. It was a new experience for me, having never used it before, but I found it very easy to use, an essential item in displaying vast amounts of my ideas down on one document, and it definitely benefited me greatly in the creative process, as I never forgot ideas. I was also able to create different sections to apply to different ideas and theories, which enabled me to navigate quickly to information I wanted. Dropbox became another essential tool to me in the production process, as I was able to send and save external files to the cloud and retrieve them later, making them easily accessible and speeding up the production process. I did, however, struggle with some files being too big for Dropbox, and had to use other services such as Gmail to access them. But I still retain Dropbox is a resourceful tool, despite the hindrance. For editing, I used Final Cut Pro, which was an updated version of the Final Cut Express system I had used last year. The new software was a lot more intuitive and enabled me to create a more professional feel to my film through features such as stabilization and transitional filters. I also manipulated video speed, transparency and lighting to create a more atmospheric film, and I believe I was effective in doing so. I believe if I had used Express, my creativity would have been limited, and Final Cut Pro really enabled me to advance my editing skills this year. I also found GarageBand very useful when using a USB keyboard, which enabled me to record my soundtrack straight onto the software and manipulate things such as pitch and instrumentation. And I feel I created a professional feel overall. I believe technology greatly benefited my production of this film. From research to editing, I found the use of technology a necessity to create a professional product.